If you saw my video yesterday, you know that I made some bold predictions about patch 7.19. And one of those predictions was about Janna in particular. I made the prediction that the changes to Janna were not nerfs. In fact, they were such a significant buff that she would see a higher win rate than she had last patch. And not only was I completely right about that, but it's depressing how accurate it was. A few hours after the patch, we saw Riot tuck their tail between their legs and immediately hotfix Janna. And now, if you're one of the many people that posted on Reddit, the forums for League of Legends, anything about the PBE, and you were saying, hey, this doesn't really make sense to make these changes to Janna because these will actually make her better, kudos to you. Because Riot didn't listen. We actually entered into a situation where Riot is so out of touch with the concepts of what made Janna so oppressive that they changed her to benefit her in such a way that her win rate was so dramatically high yesterday during just the first few hours that they actually had to hotfix her with substantial nerfs to her base stats. Who didn't see this coming? Riot Games. I was one of the unlucky few who had to play against Janna yesterday, and I lost. The Janna player was perhaps one of the most poorly positioned supports, horrible laner, was overall a very weak player. And not only did her AD carry get a pentakill in a late game team fight, she basically did nothing. Similar to the old Janna. Except now, Janna has theoretically a better early game if you're a better Janna. So, with the changes to Janna, they only punish early game bad Jannas, and then past level 9, she is simply the same champion except better. After the hotfixes, we could talk about that a little bit later in this video, but the changes they proposed to Janna actually benefited her early game so much that not only is it harder to punish a bad Janna, but a good Janna, if those exist, could use her new passive, her new attack range, and her new health stat to simply be better at harassing and oppressing certain matchups bot lane that are mostly melee and melee, or ranged in melee, like melee supports. And then past level 9, she's the exact same Janna, except better, because that's the point at which her shield cooldown becomes the same as the old shield cooldown. We actually saw, for a very few hours, Janna probably at the strongest state that she's been in for a very long time. And this was a champion with probably the highest win rate in solo queue that only gets better the higher elo you get because she directly scales with the player skill of the AD carry on your team. We saw her get better. We were promised nerfs to Ardent Censor and Janna. But in fact, during the same exact patch that we saw buffs to Janna, we saw Ardent Censor, an item that was indisputably overpowered. The amount of stats that it gave, minus the passive, were already very good for supports. When you include the passive, the gold value for the item was the best in the game. This item got even better late game. And this item is never weak. This item is never weak. This item actually got better for Lulu and Janna because now it also works on the support. So now Janna, who has a new passive, which scales with their bonus movement speed, which Ardent Censor gives extra movement speed and attack speed and on hit damage, now also benefits the support. The patch that was supposed to nerf Ardent Censor to the point where like supports aren't forced the first item in, and you're not forced, like you're in a situation where you could maybe not pick an Ardent Censor based support, actually made the item better on just about all of the supports that previously built it well. And we also saw buffs to the #1 Ardent Censor abuser. How did this happen? How closed off is Riot Games to feedback that they did not listen to people that were actually testing this in the PBE? We actually had so many posts that were based around Janna and Ardent Censor coming from feedback on the PvE, that the fact that this made it to live and they had the hotfixer really makes me think that they don't listen to any of the feedback on the PvE, and the public beta environment is simply just an illusion to make them think that they're testing things, when it's quite clear that when they have to, a few hours after releasing Janna and her new state, have to hotfix her with very substantial base damage or base stats nerfs. But to be quite honest, these still don't address how good Janna is. And that's just the idea around how powerful she can make the AD carry. You can nerf her stats. You can make her basically paper, like how they did with the old Sona, and just kept nerfing her base health. But you enter into a situation where you're not addressing Janna's main strength. And that's just simply her ability to scale with an AD carry, sit really far back in a team fight, and disable just about most assassins in the game, if not most immobile tanks. And the AD carry will just kill everyone because of the multiple stats that are benefiting the AD carry, such as the attack damage from her E, the shield itself, the attack speed boost, the on-hit damage, the peel that she offers. We aren't necessarily in a tank meta. We are in a meta that everything has to work together to complement the AD carry. And tanks just so happen to be phenomenal to play with AD carries because they can enable AD carries to stay alive longer. They offer peel. They buy time for the AD carry to kill everyone. And they're just really easy to play. So would you rather have like melee assassins, a Tryndamere top lane? Or would you rather just have tanks and more utility for the AD carry? Because you simply don't need more damage if you have a good AD carry, an itemized AD carry, and something like Janna or Lulu protecting the AD carry. You don't need more damage. The AD carry like Tristana or Twitch, they can kill just about everyone themselves, including tanks, as long as they stay alive long enough. So when you see these changes to Janna, like I did, and I see that they nerfed her shield, just the cooldown. They didn't think about anything else with the shield. They know the shield's a problem. They're like, all right, Janna can only use the shield. She can use the shield infrequently now early game. When the shield is most broken outside of laning phase, Janna is supposed to lose lane, right? Janna has been a champion that it's very common to at least lose your first turret when you have Janna. If Janna wins lane, if we enter into a meta where Janna's actually winning lane, there's no hope to win that game almost. If the AD carry and support are good, you will lose that game if Janna and her AD carry get the first turret because they only get stronger from there. You can pick lanes like Blitzcrank and like mage supports and maybe kill Janna, maybe kill the AD carry and take the first turret. But if you don't end the game in a timely manner, they win by default because the AD carry gets way too many free stats. If you look at how many stats a Janna shield would give with Ardent Censor and gold value, it's just disgusting. The enemy AD carry would simply just have to be completely and utterly killing everyone just to compete with the stats that a Janna shield with Ardent Censor on an AD carry would give. They did not even think about addressing things like maybe the shield range on Janna or maybe the attack damage that the shield is giving. There are so many ways that they could have toned down Janna's power, and instead of just being a straight nerf, they gave her compensations that actually helped her early game but gave her the same late game oppression. It baffles my mind. Because surely people in charge of playing this game actually play the game at a semi-decent level to understand the power spikes, the competitive nature of what Janna offers to the team. Because before they made these changes, Janna wasn't supposed to win lane, but she still had the highest win rate for supports. I'm really just really upset because throughout this entire season, I've just been waiting and waiting for certain things to happen. Like, surely now is the time where Janna is going to get nerfed. Surely now is the time when Bramble Vest is going to actually be cut down in power. I could talk in this video about how the fact that Bramble Vest could have been nerfed in ways such as only applying a 20% Grievous Wound healing reduction And then once you complete Thordmail, it goes up to 40%. There's so many ways where they could have toned down that item and it would still be pretty much built first item in almost most top lane tank matchups. Instead, they nerfed it in ways that didn't really cut down on the power on the item and the benefit it brings in certain matchups to completely just win the lane. It's you had previous patches and times in League where they just straight up said, we don't like it when items just give free passive power, like the old Aegis. And yet we have items like Bramble Vest that literally you don't have to do anything to apply. Your opponents are punished when they hit you. Ardent Censor, you basically don't even have to be a person to use Ardent Censor because you hit one ability on a support like Janna and you just cha-ching, like you just throw temporary gold on your AD carry, which equal disgusting amount of stats. And it's basically a passive aura because it's not that hard to hit one button once every so often to give massive benefits to someone that's going to be doing the highest damage output in the game. We need to put a stop to how easy it is to play these champions that also just so happen to be the strongest. Like, can we please enter into a meta where Janna is easy to play, fine for newer players to play, except not the strongest support? Can we actually enter into a meta where you benefit from learning harder to play champions that have bigger rewards for mastering instead of dumbing down the game and telling people that want to climb the ladder to play easier champions because they just so happen to also be incredibly powerful? Can we, like, I understand that League is moving more towards being a casual game. That's fine. You can have different skill ceilings and skill rewarding champions because bronze players are going to play whatever anyways, and the wins or loses in those games are basically random most of the time because everyone sucks in those games. No offense if you're in bronze, you still have a long way to go to learn the game. You can have a game where there are different metas for like high elo and low elo, and they're both balanced. But you simply have to change how the game functions from an individual champion level. You can't have point and click champions that just also are disgustingly powerful. Like Annie has been strong for God knows how long, maybe not overpowered, but to the point where when you're encouraging someone to climb from the mid lane, would you rather tell them to play Xerath or Annie? I mean, even like some of the best Xerath players are still inconsistent with how difficult he is to play, and the reward is honestly not that much higher than just playing a standard mid easy to play mage in most circumstances unless you're scripting. Because there's just only so far you can take a champion that has 4 skill shots, all of which have weird ways to hit the enemy champion and maybe smaller hitboxes or slow travel speed or windups. And then you have a champion that is point and click. I'm not trying to knock people that play these easy to play champions. I know that you're just a symptom of the game and the problems that are reflecting in the game. I'm not trying to encourage you not to play easy to play champions if they are the best. What I'm trying to encourage is for the game to fundamentally change away from having some of the easiest champions also be the most powerful to having easy champions being okay, but having champions that you can put a lot of time into being better than the easy champions if you put time into them. It actually feels like the opposite. You feel almost de-rewarded, if that's a word, for mastering certain champions because it seems like the easier to play champions just somehow just stick around forever. You've Sona and Janna they've just been viable for forever. Even the metas that haven't really favored them, they've had really high win rates because of how simple they are, but also how effective they are. It's not, there are champions like Volibear that's easy to play right, but there's just a skill ceiling to what his kit offers. There's range creep in this game. You hear the word power creep a lot, but you haven't heard the word range creep a lot, where there's more benefit to having range on your abilities and the ability to sit at a safe distance and hit your opponents with stuns and spells and slows and deal damage and poke. This directly, it's not hard, right? It's not hard to sit under your turret and benefit your team at a safe distance. It's not difficult. But when you have a champion that is like very simplistic, like Garen or Volibear, but it only takes you so far because there are limitations. And what are those limitations? Usually it's ranged. Ranged abilities, ranged stuns, ranged slows, ranged tornadoes, ranged disengage, an AD carry that's killing you very quickly from a safe distance. Why play something like Volibear, even though it is simplistic, when you can simply just completely make him useless by even easier to play champions? So maybe not all easy to play champions in League are overpowered or, simply good, but something like Volibear or Garen is perfectly fine for lower elos, right? These are champions that I don't expect to see crop up in the LCS unless their numbers are just too high. And that's fine. We can have champions in League that just don't ever leave bronze or silver. And that's totally fine. But what we also don't need is for champions like Janna to completely and utterly dominate challenger games or master tier games or diamond games or platinum games, and also just be almost as effective in bronze games. It just really doesn't make any sense that exists. I think we kind of need to tone down Janna and Sona type champions to be almost more on par with like Volibear and Garen type champions, where yes, these are really, really fucking easy to play. It doesn't mean anything if you can play Janna well. It doesn't mean anything at all. It's like, oh god, this is a good Janna player. What does that actually mean in the grand scheme of things? Because there's only so much you can do with Janna. Maybe it's she saved her abilities till the right moment and then she used them. You're not creating play opportunities. You're not encouraging aggressive, cool, awesome plays to unfold that results in faster games. We see longer, slower, more boring games with these simplistic champions that don't have a high skill ceiling, when it should be the opposite. We should see League games end up being faster and more fast-paced and more enjoyable than these really slow, not even methodical losses that end up happening because your champions don't match up well against point-and-click champions. I'm sorry for that rant. I mean, these rants will just keep coming. They're just going to keep coming, man. They're again and again and again. I'm just so passionate about League of Legends. I want to see it change for the better. I've played League longer than almost everyone has. I've seen the ups and downs of League. I've seen every different meta. I've played since the beta, since early beta of League of Legends, and every single season since. And every season, I hope we move back towards these metas that actually encourage skill mastery to champions that take effort to learn and master and learn the ins and outs of complex champions, rich layered champions. Gameplay that excites you, gameplay that ends in a timely manner, and you're not trapped and held hostage in 30-minute losses because your team wanted to play champions that just don't match up well. Your team picks selfish champions in a game that heavily punishes you for picking selfish champions. I don't want to get mad at my team for picking what they want to play. Just make it so that it's a fair enough game that if people just want to play what they want to play, you still have a chance to grind it out and maybe win. And if you can't, let us end the games faster. Whether we're getting stomped, please just let the madness end. Oh, God. Anyways, guys, what are your thoughts on this? I guess my thesis for this video is I don't like how powerful certain simplistic champions are, like Janna and Sona, and the fact that Ardent Censor is such a favorable item to them already overtunes them to the point where there's almost no competition and comparing supports. And that really dominates the rest of the map as well. Because if we have Janna's picked, then that disables just a whole host of other champions that are fun to play. And it creates this environment that is not healthy for the game. It's not healthy for the players playing the game. It's honestly causing more mental stress, and it's hurting the game experience. Let's make League of Legends great again.